Ever signed your name next to someone you trust? Maybe a partner, a sibling, or that best friend who swore they'd cover everything and thought nothing of it? Picture this. Years later, you're sipping coffee on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday when a collector calls, demanding the entire balance on a loan you barely remember. Your paycheck is suddenly at risk, your credit plummets overnight, and the debt that was ours has become entirely yours. One rushed signature did that. No hacking, no identity theft, just fine print you never saw and a lender using a perfectly legal clause to pin the whole bill on you. If that sounds extreme, buckle up. Hidden in most joint credit agreements are clauses so one-sided they can outlast friendships, marriages, even the life of the co-borrower. Miss a single payment, and interest rates can rocket past 29%. Scores you spent a decade building can nosedive in an afternoon. And if your cosigner ghosts, files bankruptcy, or passes away, the entire balance may land squarely on your shoulders, plus fees you didn't even know existed. Over the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain on 7 traps that quietly turn shared debt into your personal financial sinkhole, and, more importantly, show you how to dodge every one of them. Because before you pick up that pen again, you should know exactly what you're signing away. Most people assume that when they co-sign, they're on the hook for just their half. The contract quietly laughs at that idea. In nearly every joint loan, the clause called joint and several liability means each signer is responsible for all of the debt, not a neat 50-50 slice. The instant one payment is late, the lender can skip the missing party and squeeze the full balance out of whoever's easier to find. Often the person's still answering their phone. I've watched roommates move across the country, leaving the friend who helped them buy a car, suddenly facing wage garnishment for a vehicle they don't even drive. Courts don't care whose turn it was to pay. The signature proves you volunteered to be a guarantor, whether you realized it or not. And once collectors lock onto the most traceable target, they rarely let go. But the balance isn't the only thing that balloons after that first missed-date. The moment a payment slips past due, even by a single day, many lenders flip a hidden switch labeled penalty APR. Overnight, that friendly single-digit interest sprouts into something savage. 29%, 32%, sometimes more. And here's the kicker. Your on-time track record doesn't matter. One default by any co-borrower triggers the rate hike for everyone on the note. Now, every dollar you thought you were shaving off the principal is barely covering interest that compounds daily. Late payment fees stack on top, often running $35 or $40 a pop. And those fees themselves start collecting interest if they aren't cleared immediately. I've seen a modest $8,000 balance swell past $12,000 in under 6 months. No new spending, just turbocharged interest quietly inflating the bill while both signers argued over who forgot to mail the check. And while the numbers accelerate upward, something else is about to plummet in the background. When that overdue notice hits the lender's system, they don't just call to remind you. You're instantly branded with a derogatory mark that shows up on every co-signer's credit report. The algorithm doesn't care whose fault it was. It cares only that the bill went unpaid. One 30-day delinquency can shave 70 to 100 points off your score in a single reporting cycle, pitching you from excellent to barely fair before you even realize the payment was missed. From there, the dominoes topple fast. Credit card issuers jack your annual percentage rates for risk. Landlords suddenly require triple deposits, and that low-interest car refinance you plan vanishes because lenders now see you as radioactive. Worse, bad marks stick around like stubborn graffiti, 7 years on your file. Even if the balance is eventually cleared, quietly inflating insurance premiums and business loan rates the entire time. And good luck explaining joint liability to an algorithm. Computer scoring models don't recognize family drama, breakups, or runaway roommates, only numbers. Some people try a quick fix, disputing the late payment, pleading for a goodwill adjustment. But most bureaus view joint accounts as shared responsibility. The stain remains. Now, every future application you submit will be judged against a crisis you barely controlled, and every co-borrower linked to you drags your fate along with theirs like a chain. Sure, credit scores can heal with time, but you'll spend that time paying more for everything. higher mortgage rates, steeper personal loan interest, even pricier cell phone plans. And while you grind through those years rebuilding, one other thing may be crumbling even faster. The relationship that convinced you to sign in the first place, because money stress has a nasty habit of surviving the friendship or marriage that birthed it. Love may fade, friendships may fracture, but a joint debt sticks like wet cement long after the goodbye. Ask anyone who's tried to untangle finances during a breakup. Dividing the couch is easy. Dividing a cosign loan is a legal maze. Courts can order who pays what, yet the contract you signed rarely changes. Until the balance hits zero, the lender still views each signer as a full-fledged payer. I've sat with clients who thought a divorce decree freed them, only to watch collectors seize their tax refund when an ex-spouse forgot the credit card bill. Worse, if that ex files for bankruptcy, their fresh start can dump every unpaid cent onto the partner who stayed solvent, because bankruptcy discharges the filer's obligation, not the co-borrower's. Ghosting works the same way. Once one signer vanishes, mailing addresses and new phone numbers become detective work while interest pounds on the remaining signer's door. And let's not sugarcoat the emotional toll. Each angry phone call from a collector reignites the breakup wounds, turning financial cleanup into a daily reminder of a relationship gone sour. Suddenly, you're weighing whether to pay thousands just to protect your fading credit or to let it slide and hope the other party resurfaces, gambling years of financial security on someone else's reliability. Lawyers can negotiate releases or insist on refinancing, but that costs time and money many don't have mid-separation. So before you fuse finances in the name of love or friendship, remember, contracts don't dissolve when feelings do, and lenders won't mediate your heartbreak. But what if the partner doesn't just walk away? What if they never come back at all? Picture the phone call you never expect. A lender offering condolences on the passing of your co-borrower, then calmly asking how you plan to cover every cent of the remaining balance. Sounds cold, but that's exactly how most survivorship clauses work. The moment one signer dies, the loan doesn't pause to grieve. It automatically snaps shut on the living signer, who now owns the debt outright, plus any late fees accrued while probate drags on. Many people assume the estate will settle everything. Yet estates move at courtroom speed, not bill collector speed. A 60-day delay can trigger default, turbocharging interest and pushing the account into collections before the first memorial flower wilts. Even life insurance proceeds aren't a guaranteed rescue. Payouts often vanish into funeral costs, property taxes, or other creditor lines that jump the queue, leaving the joint loan hungry and unpaid. I've seen a widow sell the family car to cover a signature she'd forgotten she'd made, and an adult son drain his small inheritance because dad's old business credit line was still active. Meanwhile, credit agencies slap the survivor with failure to pay marks if a single statement slips, multiplying the stress of bereavement. All this for a debt you thought was shared compassionately, not a financial boomerang waiting for tragedy. The only true shield is planning long before illness strikes, demanding a death release clause, keeping separate insurance earmarked solely for the loan, or insisting on paperwork that forces automatic refinancing onto the remaining party's name while times are good. Because after the funeral, paperwork compassion disappears, and the lender's sympathy ends where the unpaid balance begins. And if you think this risk stops at deathbeds, wait until you learn that in some places you don't even need to co-sign to inherit a spouse's financial storm. Imagine waking up to discover a bill you never touched for a loan you never saw is now legally yours, simply because you married in the wrong zip code. That's the jarring reality of community property laws, which treat marriage like a business merger. Every asset earned and every debt incurred during the union is automatically ours. No signatures required. 9 U.S. states, Arizona, California, Idaho, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin, plus certain provinces and countries extend this doctrine, meaning your spouse could finance a motorcycle on Friday, and by Monday, the lender can chase you for the payments even if your name never appears on a single document. Medical bills rack up under one partner's name. Hospital turns to the other partner for the balance. A secret credit card spree meant to launch a side hustle? Congrats! You now co-own the debt and the failure. The shock deepens when couples separate. Moving out doesn't sever community status. Debts keep accruing until a court finalizes the divorce decree, and even then, lenders aren't required to honor it. They'll still hunt whichever spouse has the easier paycheck to garnish. I've seen newly divorced clients discover thousands in fresh balances because an ex kept swiping plastic during the cooling-off period. Adding insult, some community property states report both spouses' full credit histories on joint mortgage applications. So a hidden delinquency can torpedo your home-buying dreams years after the relationship ends. The only defense is aggressive transparency and airtight paperwork. Prenuptial or postnuptial agreements that classify future debts as separate, written notifications to creditors upon separation, and relentless credit monitoring alerts that warn you the moment a mystery account appears. Because in community property territory, the question isn't did I sign? It's was I married when it happened? And if the answer is yes, that stray signature you never penned can still bleed your bank account. But even in non-community states, a joint loan can clamp onto you for life, unless you know the escape hatch is hidden in the fine print. The only reliable antidote to shared debt chaos is building your escape plan before you ever scrawl your signature. Step 1. Read every clause that mentions release, then demand it be activated in writing. Some lenders allow a release upon refinance or 12 consecutive on-time payments trigger that drops a co-signer without closing the account. If that line isn't there, push for it or walk away. A deal that pins you for life isn't a bargain. Step 2. Limit the limit. Whether it's a credit card, HELOC, or personal loan, negotiate the smallest line that still meets the need. A ceiling of $5,000 can't balloon to $25,000 no matter how ugly things get. Shrink the runway and explosions stay smaller. Third, set non-negotiable monitoring rules. Automatic payment alerts to both parties' phones, emails for every new charge, and a standing order that any missed due date triggers an immediate phone call and, if necessary, a freeze on further spending. These digital tripwires cost nothing, but can save you the price of a new car. Next, insure the debt, not the person. Credit life or disability insurance often costs pennies a day and pays the balance if a borrower dies or can't work. It's not glamorous insurance, but it prevents grief from morphing into foreclosure. If premiums feel steep, price a term policy sized exactly to the loan. Many times the math works out cheaper and covers multiple risks at once. Finally, consider formal financial boundaries. That means separate accounts for daily expenses, written cohabitation agreements if you're unmarried, and prenuptial or postnuptial contracts if you are. Those documents may feel unromantic, yet they give courts the blueprint to divide obligations cleanly if life takes a turn. Pair them with quarterly credit report pulls and a free credit freeze, so new accounts can't open without your explicit say-so. Put all of that together, and you've built a firewall. If a partner's fortunes crumble, the blaze stops on their side of the wall. Sound extreme? Not nearly as extreme as watching a lender repossess your car or your peace of mind because someone else treated your shared loan like pocket change. So that's the hidden map of landmines waiting under a single, hurried signature, joint in several liability that can dump the whole loan on you overnight, penalty interest that turns a missed Tuesday into a 5-figure nightmare, credit bruises that linger longer than many marriages, breakups and divorces that cut ties everywhere except the repayment schedule, survivorship clauses that transform grief into invoices, community property rules that punish the blissfully unaware and the proactive, shields, releases, limits, alerts, insurance, and legal boundaries that can keep someone else's chaos from detonating your future. Let it sink in. Lenders write these traps because most people never read past the dotted line, and they profit when trust outweighs caution. The next time a loved one hands you a pen with a smile and a "can you just sign here?" remember this story of debts that outlived friendships, resurfaced after funerals, and turned ordinary Tuesdays into collection call marathons. Pause long enough to scan every clause, to ask for the release language, to cap the limit, to ice your credit if the answers feel slippery. Because while money problems can heal, the 7-year scar on your credit, the garnished wages, and the strained relationships rarely fade as quickly as the paperwork that caused them. If you've ever escaped or fallen into one of these traps, drop a line below. Your lesson might be the wake-up call someone else needs. And if you want a deeper dive into negotiating a clean exit from a loan that's already gone sideways, let me know. There's another chapter to this story, and you won't want to face the collectors without it.